Hello, Alama. Hello, everybody. I intend to put a video of drasha out from now on every Friday afternoon. Possibly it might not work, but I'll try. And we start today with Achare Kedoshim. It is in Vayikra, Leviticus, and it's from chapter 16 till 20. And if I would have to choose a few chapters from Torah, if I could not take anything else to a desert island stay, I would take chapters 18, 19, and 20. Although I love the story of Shimshon and Delilah, so that would also be a good choice. But okay, these chapters are much more interesting. And these chapters are stuffed with instructions for life. And also, I'm very aware in these chapters you also find the psukim, the verses on which LHBTG plus people are spit on, pushed out, molested, beaten, persecuted, and murdered. And what else can I say that's abhorrent and that it shouldn't happen, that we have to fight against all of that and that it should stop. But having said that, I still want to say that these chapters are really interesting, and I want to take only one pasuk out of this in order to illuminate the richness. It says, actually, that you have to, it's in chapter 19, verse 15, it says, "You shall not render an unfair decision, do not favor the poor, or show deference to the rich, judge your neighbor fairly." Now, that is very interesting because our tendency is to favor the poor. And it's especially this sentence is, of course, very interesting on Labor Day, which it is today. But it says, don't favor the poor. Apparently, that is what we automatically do. Apparently, that's a tendency in humankind. And not only now, since socialism, the last two centuries, but apparently also in antiquity. Also in antiquity, the tendency was to favor the poor and to really sort of not, in a sense, not quite take them seriously, because that's what I take away from this. The poor have an aura of moral right. It's almost like if you're poor, well, you must be good. But Torah says, no. You actually have to look at what a person does, whether he's poor or rich or in between. You have to look at the acts. Now, why could that be? Well, if you think about it, it might be because if you treat a person like a child, not quite with up to the responsibility of life, or as somewhat inferior, also not up to the responsibilities of life, you actually diminish the person in front of you, who might be poor, and take away his or her responsibility of life. And with taking away the responsibility for life, you take away self-respect. Now, no matter how poor you are, you always have the responsibility of your life. You always have your life in your own hands. Well, we tend to say, yes, but this criminal had a bad upbringing, had bad friends, didn't think about the implications of his or her deeds. They were taken along. He or she was taken along by bad people and join into something nasty. Could be. But then what do you say to these 99.9% of poor people who do not steal, who do not go out to rob, who do not blow up a bank, who do not defraud an old person, who doesn't steal the purse of a handicapped person, who does not become a pusher of drugs, who does not go out pickpocketing? What do you say to these other people, poor people, really poor people who don't do that? So Torah says you always have to give the person the responsibility of their life. They cannot say, yes, but this and that happened, therefore, no. You have to be judged on your deeds, on your acts, on what you did, and not all these other things might be true, but they should not come into the judgment. It is very important that people keep the responsibility of their life, that they keep their worthiness, that they're not diminished, and also that they are not strengthened in a possible role of the victim, which most of the time is not due anyway. But it is very dangerous to strengthen people in their victimhood. So the best thing is, as Torah says, judge them by their deeds. Very hard for us to do. Very hard. That's also why it's in Torah. Well, in these chapters, you find all sorts of things about all aspects of life for all ages, for all people, for all sorts of ages. And there's so much to think and reflect and think through and study in these 3 chapters that you can be busy with it for a lifetime. So skip over all these horrible psukim that really hurt. Try and look at the other things that are also there, because it is really nourishment for your heart and head. And like the land of milk and honey, that is also spoken about in Leviticus, in Vayikra, in the book, you might overflow with insights and wisdom and love when you study these 3 chapters. Shabbat Shalom.